So winning the lottery is easy. All you need to do is select some numbers on your lottery coupon, and then before long you will be a multi-millionaire, completely financially independent, living a life of your dreams on a yacht, on a luxury yacht. But hold on a second, there's a problem. Nearly everybody loses on the lottery. So what about a lottery where you cannot possibly lose, where you can only win? In order to explain that concept, I'm going to have to bake an apple pie. So the reason that I've used a pie to illustrate the concept is that when you play a lottery of any sort, all of the individual entries that you make into the lottery are basically the ingredients of that pie. It goes in to make this big prize fund, and then that prize fund is then sliced up into individual portions. Some of it will be prize money, some of it will be other elements of the individual lottery. And if you go on to the website of the National Lottery, you can see there that it says that 95% of revenue goes back to winners and society. So let us understand exactly what that percentage is made of. So let's take our delicious pie and begin to slice it up. What you can see here are the slices and how they're allocated in the UK National Lottery. And there's a big orange slice at the bottom here. So what do you think that orange slice is? Well, it's actually the amount of prizes that are issued from every pound in the National Lottery. 57% of all money that goes into the National Lottery are allocated to prizes, and that brings on a big problem because you could buy every combination of every ticket on planet Earth and you will still not win. And that is because every pound that you put into the National Lottery, you lose 43% of it immediately, and only 57% gets paid out as prize money. So even if you bought all the tickets in the National Lottery, you'd just be handing over your money in other costs. So it's not all bad news, because as we know, the UK National Lottery raises a lot of money for good causes, or charity as I have named it in this particular pie chart, and that takes up about 24% of the amount of money that goes into the lottery actually goes to good causes. About 5% goes to running the actual lottery itself, and the interesting thing about these figures is that about 12% of the money that you actually put into the lottery goes straight into the government's pockets in the form of lottery duty. So what you actually need is a lottery that just pays out 100% in prize money. No deductions, no tax, no nothing. 100% of all the money that gets invested goes in prizes. But that's impossible, isn't it? Well, the answer is no, it actually exists.
Dr. Charles Hill, the Postmaster General, anticipated the big rush to buy the new premium bonds, now on sale as a novel stimulus to the savings movement. The first draw for prizes will be next June, when Ernie, the electronic random number indicator equipment, will select the winning bonds. Prizes from £25 to £1,000 are available tax-free. So buy bonds and perhaps your number will come up. Have a little flutter at the post office. The more you buy, the more you save.
I want you to meet another prize winner who's won £1,000. Mrs. Brace of Gunnerby, Grantham.
Come along.
So the interesting thing about premium bonds is they work exactly the same way as you would do with a lottery. You basically buy a premium bond, that bond goes into a prize draw, and then once a month basically they allocate out the prizes, and the top prize is £1 million, and then you get a variety of prizes that are a little bit below that. But the interesting thing about this is that when you buy a bond, it automatically gets entered into the next month, unless if you withdraw it. You don't actually lose any money any time that you actually have a premium bond. The only thing that you can do is actually win one of those prizes. The money that you put into the bond is never at risk. So there are bound to be some questions here. How can you have a lottery where you cannot possibly lose, where the money that you put in is not at risk and you can withdraw it at any time? You can only possibly win. Well, the answer is in the name of the product, because premium bonds are a form of government bonds. Around the world, governments issue bonds. They create debt in order to fund the day-to-day cost of running a country and the cost of running a government and defence and all of those sort of things. So governments issue bonds. And when they issue bonds, they have to pay interest on it. In their wisdom, the good old British government, quite a few years ago, decided to issue a type of bond called a premium bond, where you can actually buy the bond and lend the government money effectively. And in return, what they'll do is they'll pay a rate of interest on top of that particular bond. And it's the interest on that bond payment that gets issued out as a prize. So let's see what we've learned so far. When you play a lottery, all of the money goes into a great big pool, a great big pot, and that is represented by this pie. And that is because everybody wants a slice of the pie. And prizes are only a small part of that. Everybody wants to take a deduction, including charitable causes and the government. So all governments need to borrow money, and they do that by issuing bonds, or sometimes they're called gilts. And the idea of these is that they're repayable at some point in the future, and the government pays interest on them until they become due. So the government issues bonds, mainly for institutional investors, but they also do premium bonds, which are targeted at the likes of you and I. We can lend the government some money. All of the money in that premium bond pool will attract a level of interest, and that interest actually gets paid out like lottery prizes. You could win £1 million all the way down to £25. And where we look at the traditional lottery, everybody has a slice of that pie. But when you look at premium bonds, what actually happens is you get to keep that entire pie. Your money is never at risk. You can withdraw it whenever you like. But as long as you have money in premium bonds, then you enter that draw each individual month. It's a bit like having a piece of pie and the government is going to put some cream on it for you. You never risk any of the underlying capital, but you're still in with a chance of winning one of those prizes. So that's the theory, but what is the reality? Well, what I actually did is there's a maximum amount that you can buy of premium bonds, which is £50,000. So I thought, well, let's go for that full allocation of £50,000. And I invested that so that the first draw would be in January. And here are the results that you can see that I've had over the course of the first 3 months. If we actually look at those and add them up, it works out at £575 over 3 months. And if we annualize that and turn it into a percentage, that is basically yielding 4.6%, which is basically much more than I can get with most other forms of savings and investments. And of course, remember that this is tax-free, so we can actually rate that back up again to a much higher number if you look at a traditional savings account that you would have to pay tax on. It actually compares very, very favourably, especially if you're a higher rate taxpayer. So yeah, all of that money I know is not at risk, and basically I stand a chance of getting that £1 million, although it's in reality more likely that I'll get a little bit less than that, but even so, it's still a very competitive savings rate. So the next time you go out and buy a lottery ticket, have a deep think about this, because in a traditional lottery, everybody wants a slice of that pie, and there is very little money left for the prizes. Even if you bought every combination of every ticket, you would still lose. Compare that to the premium bonds, because it's like a lottery. You could still win £1 million, but even if you don't, you still have your money ready for the draw in the following month, and that money over time will end up paying you a little bit of interest anyway. It's the lottery that you cannot lose.
Come along.